First, I want to thank the governor for issuing the order, Executive Order number 9, back when Broadwater was really an idea and a concept, and I think that was critical. Senator Stillman and I had put legislation in that made it through the Senate, did not make it through the House. We both approached the governor's office. The governor saw the need that early on that some party had to objectively review the project in its entirety and in detail, and we were able to do that. I want to thank Senator Stillman for co-chairing this with me. Together we worked very hard on this project, and I want to thank her for all her efforts. I want to thank the AG's office, who was there for the legal analysis we need to have done and the technical analysis. And of course, the committee. We had this meeting scheduled another date. They had blocked out the time, and because of the events in New York, we postponed it until today. So a lot of folks who had made time to be here couldn't rearrange their schedule quick enough. And, but they are fully supportive of this report and also urged that this letter be sent to New York, the letter which I believe is in your press packets. I also like to thank the help that we received by the number of experts that came and testified at our committee. What we have decided to do is to send a letter to New York, to the governor of New York, to that office, and tell them that they need to reject Broadwater. It is the wrong project, in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and for the wrong reasons. Broadwater, at best, draws serious consequences to Long Island Sound, and at worst, could be environmental disaster. In addition to that, it is not the energy silver bullet for New York, and in fact, it is not going to add any energy New York could not get through other means. And we have the diagrams, which are also in your pamphlet, that if you'd like, we could talk about later if you have questions about the energy sources that can reach New York by both existing infrastructure and new LNG projects. But let me say, when you talk about the energy issue, read FERC's report. It says, name me another project as an alternative to Broadwater, which pumps in 1 billion cubic feet of gas at a particular point, which doesn't use the existing infrastructure and which is marine. Who's buried in Grant's tomb? It's not an insightful question. It is a question posed to yield an answer. That's what's wrong with that report. And when you read the alternatives, every alternative dies in FERC's report by saying it doesn't match the purpose and intent of Broadwater. So when you set up the question for the answer, you get the answer you're looking for. On the other issues of environment, many of you have been to our meetings or reported on them. You know what our experts have said. It's in our report. What we are sending to the governor's office, as well as other administrative offices, is our first report, our second report, the letter, obviously, and then the final analysis that we did on the final report, which is in a CD form. To let you know how many people are getting all that information, or most of that information, these are all the Federal Express or DHL packages we will be sending out today to all the various agencies, a direct letter to Lieutenant Governor Patterson, also to Governor Spitzer, because they're going out Federal Express today, as well as other agencies. Broadwater clearly is an example of an energy policy that's out of control, also coupled with corporate greed. Now, I read an article that was brought to my attention that gives me great trouble. And a line was by a senior official at Broadwater who said that it appears that the report was bought and paid for by a Broadwater opposition group. That is outrageous. That report was written by Senator Stillman and I after 16 public hearings, 300 pieces of documents. That report was written mostly on our own time, away from our families, and on weekends to be reviewed by our committees who gave up their personal time to speak to the public and show up at public hearings. That report was written based upon expert testimony that FERC decided to ignore. That was written by virtue of the poor documentation that Broadwater submitted to FERC, that was asked time after time to be reconsidered, for which answers today still have not come forth from Broadwater or FERC. So to insinuate that this report somehow was bought and paid for by a committee that has no budget, and asked our resources to do it, well, we're having anywhere between my secretary at my law office helping me out because my spelling's not the best, to my staff people helping me out and making copies and sending them out to the Commissioner of DEP to be reviewed for certain technical analysis, to making sure that we're right on FERC's procedure and checking with the AG's office to make sure it's technically right in terms of precedent and law and our understanding of the federal regulations. That's absolutely outrageous. But it doesn't surprise me because that's been the conduct of Broadwater since its inception.